And hello, welcome back everybody. Here we are for Australia. So 5 more tracks to go including this, and we are almost at the end of the series for the setups and track guides. So now let's quickly get into the setup right away. And if you want to skip to the track guide, you can use the timestamps in the description as well, or in the timing bar, whatever the thing is called. Setup is also in the description if you want to take a look at it quickly without having to go through all this explanation, and you can always try it out. So let's get into the setup and see what we can do first. Track guide will be right after this. And first of all, you need to once again, it's always about the track layout here, what kind of a track it is. So there's plenty of DRS straights around here, but there's a lot of corners where you need to carry pretty good amount of speed, cornering speed, in order to even maximize your top speed around here. And I prefer a little bit more downforce around here than going for a low downforce, although I know it's going to be tougher to recover ERS at the end of the day. And yeah, so that's all about what's your preference around here. I can't really get on a groove with this track in this game at least, so there's always a little bit of that factor as well. Now, skipping all that blabber, let's straight away save our setup before we forget to do anything further. And yeah, let's take a look. So 34-26 on the wings, which is quite high. I would say it's medium level of downforce around here, so but it's pretty good. 8 wing difference to make the front quite pointy around here, because there's a lot of high speed corners that are quite not say long, but they have quite a sharp turning in, so you require quite a bit of front downforce in order to carry more speed throughout the corner. So I've also tried 35, which also seems to work for qualifying conditions in GP mode, but in time trial sometimes it's wonky, so I just prefer to go with 34, so it's not too slidey. Transmission, it's on 50 on throttle, that's for qualifying. In the race you can always go to 55 or 60, because you're not really putting down the power that aggressively, you don't need the rotation that aggressively, plus you'll be taking corners a bit slower, so you don't really need to be too aggressive again on your inputs. So it also helps to not spin up the race too much on exits, but it will cause a little bit of understeer. So usually around 55, 60, 65 is where you want to be using in the race. You can go higher as your tires are starting to wear out, so it preserves your not really preserve, it will prevent you from sliding the rail too much. Off throttle as well, if you lock up too much under the heavy braking, especially like at the end of turn 3, I believe, the heavy braking zones, and towards the end of the back straight, end of sector 2, so all those heavy braking zones, if you lock up a lot, you can always increase your off throttle. The other reason you may want to increase off throttle is, let's say you're going through all these high speed corners on the exit. On the entry you may have to take the curbs as well, so keeping it a bit high makes the car a little bit more balanced when you go over these curbs, and it stops you from spinning out of control. And yeah, you can go up to 54 for the race. In qualifying you can go down to 52 as well. That really works. You have to see which really works for you, but this is a good baseline to use. And suspension geometry, the usual, it's minimum camber, minimum toe. Again, you can play around with this, see if coming out of the last corner, if you feel like the car is a little bit it's losing the back end, you can add a little bit of rear camber, just a little bit, 1 to 2 clicks, so that the car has more lateral grip, sideways grip, right, when you're going through the corners. And maybe a bit of rear toe just to keep it a little bit more stable coming out of the slower corners in this track, maybe even the high speed corners, especially when you have to take the entry and exit curbs here. So that's a little tip that I can give to you, but you don't want to exaggerate on the camber, otherwise you really start to lose stability in the car as well. Now let's go to suspension. As always, I like to start with 41.5 as a baseline here, and then work my way around it. And so I've settled with 41.10, 41.11. It's about the same. I don't really feel much difference here. The only important thing that you need to note is the lower you go on the rear suspension, the higher you have to increase your rear ride height, so that it counteracts each other and it doesn't how to say, you lose the back end, right? Under acceleration, you don't bottom out on acceleration or in the corners or on the curbs. So usually if you go on 5 rear suspension, 39 or 38 is good enough. I'll prefer 39, it's a bit safer. I usually start with 33, 39 as well. So this is my starting suspension baseline in some sense, right? And for some reason in this track, I felt that you know, going low on the rear suspension didn't really help me coming out of these fast corners here. So I went higher and it started to feel a lot more stable, especially on the exits. Plus when I reduced the rear ride height as well. So it's a little bit of a balancing game that you can do. And then the front ride height, 32 was okay for me as well. It did not bottom out on the curbs. 31 really started to bottom out on some curbs, especially in the middle sector where you have to take some of the curbs on entry and exit. So 33, 32 is the safe range that you can play with. And then front anti-roll bar, usually again I like to run it 1-1. Soft front allows the car to rotate more mid-corner, but there aren't many slow corners here or tight corners where you need that much of turning in. It's more of a fast sharp turns here, so you need a little bit of stability, and that's why I've chosen to go up to 5. Again, I just went up with increments of 2 at a time, and I felt like 5 is okay. Maybe 6, maybe 4 is a sweet spot. I don't know, you can try it out. And rear, I left it on 1 because I don't want the rear to be sliding any more than it is already. So this is what I arrived at. You can play around with it, and if you need any tips on how to adjust this, there's always a setup board in my Discord. You can join there and you can take a look at how to, you know, tweak your setup for different issues that you have on track. Brake bias and brake pressure, 100 brake pressure as always, you don't run any lower. Brake bias 55, it's good enough for most of the corners here. And in the race for heavy braking, I go up to 56 because, well, it doesn't lock up at all. And then usually in the rain, if it rains, you want to be running 57 or 58, and you don't need to adjust the brake pressure in the setup, but in your braking you don't need to brake 100%. You can just hold the brakes at 70-80% and threshold brake into the corner. So anyway, move on to the tire pressures here. So 5 clicks on the front, 3 clicks on the rear, and it seems a bit sensitive around here, the tire pressure changes. So when I went minimum on the rear, immediately I could notice that you know, the difference right between front and rear. If I do this, I get a lot more understeer because there's more grip on the rear, right? So so either you can reduce the front tire pressure to give more grip to the front, or you can increase the rear so that there's sort of less grip on the rear. Not really less, but more like you are pushing more grip forward, right? You're just balancing it out. And again, you want to start with minimum tire pressure so that you don't overheat the tires, and then you can work your way up in the race. So probably you want to set up your tire pressures for the hard tires, right, in the race with full fuel load. That will be your best condition. And there you go. So 34, 26 on the downforce. This is considered to be a little bit high. You want to go lower, you can go 2 clicks lower. You can even go down to 22. Any lower than that, it really starts to feel unstable in here. So 30, 22 or 29, 22 should be just fine if you want to go with lower downforce. And then high downforce is sort of, you know, what I prefer to go around here. 55, 53 on the off throttle and on the differential, right, left, 41, 11 suspension, 5-1 anti-roll bars, and then 32, 33 ride height. 33 will be safer on the front if you want a little bit more survivability, let's put it that way. And then you can always adjust that with the front wing, right? You can maybe increase the front wing to counteract the understeer that you get from increasing your ride height. Excuse me. Brakes 155 or 56, and start off with medium tire pressures and work your way upwards. And there you go. That is a setup around Australia. And well, I hope you had fun with this. You will have fun with this. And let's get into the track guide real quick and see how we can tackle this track in F1 23. So let's load this and go into our fastest lap replay and see how we can tackle the track. as usual, you want to get the best exit out of the last corner in any given track or hot lap, right? But for Australia, I find it to be beneficial that if you just follow the normal racing line around here, because there's really no grip outside of the normal, the AI racing line, let's put it that way, the racing line that is shown to you by the game's racing line thingy. Outside of that, if you go out of the normal racing line, you don't really get that much grip, so it's kind of useless to even try to get a wider exit, a wider entry, and faster exit. It doesn't really work on this track, so just follow the normal line. I find it to be equally as good. And on the exit, make sure you just use as much track as possible here while keeping your steering straight, so that you maximize the speed that you carry through the corner. And then turn 1 comes up real quick around here. You're going to be braking right after the black box, or there's a separation between the black box and the 100-meter board. You can use both of these references. In qualifying, 100-meter board is what I refer to. In time, in a race condition, the black box is what I use, because you got to brake a little bit early in the race. And there you go. And I prefer to avoid the inside curb here, because unlike last game, it doesn't really gain you that much time. You can bottom out on the curb, so I just prefer to like just nibble it a bit, just touch it like this. Any more than that, it really starts to unsettle the car. And then on the exit, open up your steering as you are turning in. Initially, you want to turn in tight, and brake a little bit earlier if you need to, so that you can carry more speed on the entry, and then you can line up the exit to get a better exit as well. And then see, immediately open up your steering, straighten it out, use all the exit that you can. As you can see here, we are on the track limits here, and then let the car run wide as you're straightening out the steering. DRS open here, and then slowly just bring the car over to the left hand side. And you might want to keep this in 7th gear in the race if you're not in DRS, because you don't really rev out the car that much. In qualifying, you can go up to 8, and you want to be braking right after the 100-meter board or at the black board here. So brake in a straight line down to 4th gear for the corner entry, and then you can downshift to 3rd as well if you need some extra rotation here. And then make sure you are tight on the entry here, but don't go too much on the curb, because it will unsettle the car. It's going to be quite a common theme around here. You don't want to take the curbs too much when you're on the slower corners here. And on the exit, open up the steering once again and upshift to 4th immediately. That helps me to put down the power quite a bit earlier and gain quite a bit of time on the exit here. So just follow the racing line that you have in the game. You're somewhere in the middle of the track here, and then immediately you want to start turning left, and then you just want to lift the throttle a little bit. Just make sure you apply some amount of throttle throughout the corner here, without understeering, of course. So if you're understeering, you can reduce the amount of throttle you put in while turning in, and then just nibble the curb a little bit. You don't want to ride the whole curb, otherwise it's going to speed you wide on the exit here. So just take it a little bit, and then on the exit you can ride quite a bit of this exit curb, but do not exceed the curb. So this is pretty much as you want to take the yellow and green curb here. Otherwise, if you go more than that, you're going to go straight on. You're going to bottom out on the curb. And then bring the car over to the left hand side and keep a smooth arc as you are bringing the car to the left and then preparing for the next ride. Otherwise, it can really unsettle the car if you have quite a loose car here. So, and then just turn in for the corner here. You can just touch the curb a little bit, but you don't want to take any of the curb. On the exit, you can let it run wide, but be careful of track limits. It tends to understeer in qualifying and in the race as well, especially in dirty air. And then this is the end of sector 1. Now for sector 2 here, it's a long exit here, so if your exit is bad, you're going to lose quite a lot of time here. Right after the 100-meter board, there's also a orange marker on the right hand side, which I use as my braking reference. So when you brake here down to 5th gear, throw the car into the corner here. That's quite important, and it's quite important to have a good balance in the car via the setup as well. So that higher front end roll bar is going to help you to throw the car in and keep it stable as well, right? You may lose a little bit of rotation in slow corners, but it's majority high speed corners here, so that's going to be more beneficial to you. And on the entry, you don't want to mount any more of the curb than this. You know, if you get on the grass, it's going to understeer you on the exit. And on the exit as well, I like to rev it up in fifth while I'm still straightening out the car. And you can see we are right on the track limits around here. Really have to use a lot of the track limits here, which I don't really like to, but you know, it's the only way to gain lap time in the stretch. And then 5th gear, 6th gear, 7th gear, 8th gear, just accelerate, stay tight though on this right side. Don't follow the in-game racing line. If you have, that's going to lose you about a tenth or two just by following that racing line. Stay tight on the right hand side, that's gonna gain you a lot of time here. And then stay tight here on the right. Once DRS is activated, you can bring the car quickly to the left hand side. This will gain you some more time as well because you're taking the shortest line. And then right towards the end, as you start to spot the the orange brake markers from far, that's where you want to bring your car over to the right hand side. In the race, you want to be braking around the 100-meter board, and in qualifying you can brake after the black board here, just under it, and then down 2 gears to 6th. In the race, you can even go down to 5th gear, and then you want to stay somewhere in the middle of the track. The more towards the left hand side you are, the better it is, so that you can carry more speed for the upcoming right-hander here. For this right-hander, you have to mount this curb as much as possible. As you can see here, one tire on the track at all times, so that you do not invalidate the lap. Excuse me. And yeah, there you go. So keep the steering straight as well, as straight as you can, without losing the car, and just have to trust the car will stick. In the race condition, you can always take it a little bit safe. You can avoid the curb. It's either you take it fully or you avoid it fully. That's the only two options you have. If you take it partially, half-heartedly, it's going to unsettle the car here. So take it full, let it run wide on the exit, take the entire curve if you need to, and then DRS is activated around here. The yellow line is the track limits around this track most of the places, so be careful of that. And then bring the car tight to the right hand side, and then to the left hand side to gain just a few more thousands here. Into the braking zone. In the race, in qualifying, you can always brake at 50 meters here, and you don't want to be too tight to the left hand side initially. As you can see from the off board here, we are leaving a little bit of space on the left, because if you can see, the track turns to the right slightly in the braking zone, so you want to have a little bit of a buffer here. You can also use this white line on the track as your reference, to keep it straight. Follow this line. Your center of your car should be aligned with this white line here, and then brake at the 50-meter mark, down to 4th gear initially, and then for the corner entry you can even go down to 3rd, and be careful not to mount that red sausage curb at all, because it's going to unsettle the car. It's a repeated theme around here. And then on the exit, let the car run wide, take as much curb as possible, keep your steering straight so that you do not oversteer, and it's going to gain you quite a bit of time. And then bring back the car over to the normal track here, so that you do not catch the grass. In this case, I caught a bit of the grass, but that's okay. It quickly disappears, so you regain your full grip here. And then at the 50-meter mark, that's where you want to turn in 5th gear. If you're in 6th gear, you may just want to downshift to 5th and then quickly back up in the throttle. You can even just carry a little bit of throttle into the corner so that you keep the minimum speed up. And then on the exit, let it run wide, use as much exit speed that you can. In this case, we're not really fully wide because we have quite a lot of front arrows, so it's not going to understeer us on the exit. And then for the final braking zone, brake right before the 50-meter board here. So that's going to be your reference. And or right after the brake, that's where you want to be braking in the race. In a straight line, brake in a straight line, and then trail brake into the corner. You can see on the right hand side here, we are almost touching the grass here. You don't want to touch the grass, of course, otherwise it's going to lose the rear end. And keep it in a straight line, tight on the entry, but without touching the curb, because touching even a little bit of this red and the green and white, green and yellow curb, it's going to unsettle the car. So like you can see here, it does unsettle the car a little bit, but it's qualifying, so you can manage it. Ideally, you want to avoid it, so that you keep it on the black stuff all the time. On the exit, you want to be somewhere in the middle of the track here, and then quickly turn right and take an early apex, sort of an early apex here, and let the car slowly run wide. Open up your steering as you're accelerating and use all the exit curve that you have. DRS will be activated around here, and pretty much if you get the line right, you're almost straight around here, and you can activate your DRS as soon as possible. And then run down to the finish line, and that is a lap around the Albert Park circuit in Melbourne, Australia. So to all the Aussies as well, well, apologies for not putting this up much earlier, because I suck at this track. But anyway, that is done. Thank you so much for your support as always, guys, and I'll see you in the next one, which is going to be Baku. I really hate that track, but we have to do it either way, right? And I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everyone. Stay safe, and goodbye.